I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is Stoneblock 4. Welcome back to some more Stoneblock 4. Today, I want to sort of work on upgrading our power infrastructure. And I know this seems kind of strange. Like, we've done a lot of crazy things recently. And I'm like, yeah, power is one of those things that we haven't had to really worry about. But that's going to change when we get into Mekanism. Mekanism is very power hungry. And just to get fissile fuel set up, which we're going to need to be able to make antimatter, well, we're going to need a bit of power for that. And also for producing antimatter in the first place and doing the conversion, it requires millions of RF to be able to do it efficiently. So I was thinking there is a way that we could generate millions of RF today. We could go from making like no RF, like making 100K, to making like 25 million RF or more today. And it shouldn't really take too much to do this. We just got to automate a few things. And so I am laying out in our generator room, because I still want to use this area to generate power. I want to technically set up this generator setup in here. Now, what generator? Well, I'm sure the title already ruined it for you, but that is the Mycelial Generator, which is one of my favorite generators to technically get set up, and is the replacement for what was the Rainbow Generator back in the original Stoneblock. And it essentially works the same way. We have 16 of these generators to get up and running and have them constantly going. And so long as they're constantly running and constantly being drained of their power, the main Mycelial Generator unit, well, that thing is going to produce 25 million RF per tick. Unless it's been modified in this pack, which I certainly hope it hasn't. Oh yeah, and it definitely hasn't been, because it is mentioned down here, the Mycelial Reactor right here, 25 million RF per tick. Yes, when all of the generators are active. So it is mentioned down here, oh so subtly down at the bottom. Now I would technically, with Mekanism in here, call that mid-tier power, because Mekanism can wildly exceed 25 million RF per tick very, very quickly. It gets pretty wild, especially with steam production. Now, I know you guys like to pop in and definitely check out how the builds are going, so I am currently laying out some builds right here, and I'm setting up some infrastructure. I'm also going to add a ladder to be able to get up into the back, and we've got to get AE down here, and I've also added some Auratech industrial lights to the underside of our generators here to give it a little bit of light. But yes, our automation for all of these generators, we're going to go right here. Now for this setup, I am going to need every single generator from Industrial Foregoing's generators mod. So a pink generator, for example, it's going to require a little bit of pink stuff to be able to get this done. An explosive generator is going to require some TNT. We also need a metallurgic one. And I'm going to go over every single one of these and how we're going to set up automation for this. Frosty Mycelial Generator, that's pretty nice. A magma generator, which is also going to be very helpful. A crimmed Mycelial Generator, which is going to require like crimson related items, which we have just about every single thing in this done. And then the culinary generator is going to require food. The disenchantment, which in my opinion is usually the hardest one to automate, but we should be able to get a nice system that works for this quite well. A potion Mycelial Generator, that one's also going to be quite easy, I think. And then the Ender Mycelial Generator. This just literally uses an Ender Pearl. And then the Halitosis, which needs Dragon's Breath, which is fully automated on our end. And then we also have Nether Stars. Ooh, which is going to require a few Wither Skeleton Skulls, which I surprisingly don't have. Ooh, I can purchase these. Don't mind me. So that one will get crafted up very, very soon. There we go. And we only need just one of each running. So kind of keep that in mind. And then we also are going to want the Rocket Mycelial, which has a special way of automating it, which we'll go over later. But yeah, this one is weird because in JEI, you don't actually have a rocket recipe. So it can be kind of confusing. This Slimy Mycelial Generator, very, very easy one to automate. And we don't have slime blocks in our system. Oh man, we have tons of slime blocks here. I should really hook this up to our AE system, which is kind of interesting. By the way, also in this update, I did notice a couple of things. Gems are now dropping. I don't know if this is a accident or if this actually is going to stay. And another thing I noticed is all of my priorities for my matter tanks ended up getting reset, and they changed the system, and now these matter tanks have a voiding option. So I'm assuming that's new to replication. Also, the priority no longer is a button you click, it's actually a number, and all of mine were reset, so I had to actually fix that today. Anyways, back to the slimy generator. We've got that done. Furnace generator, which is just quite literally burning like coal or charcoal. and then the death generator, which I think just uses rotten flesh. Most of this stuff is stuff that our chickens generate. And then finally, we have the mycelial generator itself. And so we just need to request this, and that should be pretty quick, especially since last episode, we kind of upgraded the speed on our setup. Yeah, it is very fast to craft this, especially since we're using soul surging on it. Oh, and another thing that I just did, I actually upgraded my wand to the advanced wand because I didn't realize this before, but I see it now. This can hold 8,000 buckets worth of time fluid. Yeah, that's more. I don't know if this was an accident or not, but the normal is 8,000 or 8 buckets worth. This is 8,000 buckets worth. That's a significant change. And yeah, this is great. Also, it lets you configure your max automatically. So you can shift right click and say 2 times, 4 times, or max. So you can just right click and instantly tick accelerate at max level if you wanted to. So yeah, just 1 click, instantly max tick accelerates it. That's absurd. Now, beautiful. I've got all of my generators laid out, and all of these are about to get automated. And let's start off the bat with these first 4. Furnace, we have the slimy, we also have the culinary, and we have the potion generator. All of these should be fairly straightforward, most of them just simply requiring exporters on them to get them to work. And the potion generator is the only sort of different one. This is actually going to require a little bit of a different setup we'll talk about here in a second. First though, furnace generator, very simple. It's just going to require coal or anything. I'm just going to use coal because our chickens generate it. That's going to get fed into here and it's going to start generating power. Beautiful. Then the furnace generator is basically done. Now the slimy mycelial generator is a little bit different. It actually requires milk that goes in this slot, and then we also put slime in this slot. So the thing that we need our exporter to send is slime, and we do have a slimy chicken that produces this. And so that's going to go in there. But on top, we've got to figure this out. And I think that we should be able to keep up with possibly just 1 fluid cow in a jar. Like, I'm not kidding. That should be more than enough. So we'll take our jar, and I do have some cows on me, and a regular anvil. And let's just drop this on a normal cow. Perfect. We put that there. Bloop. And interesting. Okay. So we can't use normal cows inside of the fluid cow jars? What? Don't get me wrong. I understand that the cooking for blockheads technically has this exact same mechanic. And with the milk jar, you can do this. But still, like, I know this is the original concept, right? Where you drop an anvil on it and it goes into the jar. But I don't know if this one's going to be fast enough. We'll have to see. I don't know. We'll give this a shot. So we have a regular cow in a jar. That's going to go on top. That generates a little bit of milk. And then we need to have our milk input set to pull. And that is going to start pulling in milk from here. But is it going to be enough? Maybe not to keep up with this. We'll have to see. It would have to be able to completely finish a cycle before starting again. And that I just don't know. We'll have to come back and monitor. If we need more than 1 milk cow in a jar, we can easily do that. But yeah, we'll have to see. Actually, you know what? After looking at this, I think that's 100% doable. It only needs 250 to start a new production. And it looked like it did do that again, and it cycled all over again, which is, it's perfect. You know what? For the culinary gen, let's just do a carrot. I think this is going to be completely necessary here. We'll just send it a carrot, and it's just going to constantly receive that. And we have carrots being constantly produced. We could use any food. It really doesn't matter at this point, just so long as these things are running. Now for the potion generator. Yes. This one is going to be a little bit different. And I think I want to send water bottles to this. Now, I know that in JEI, it doesn't show you that water bottles work, but they do actually work. But what I'm thinking for this, because tanks and stuff like that don't seem to have a regular glass bottle to water bottle sort of feature in this pack, we could just use a modular router, and I'll say, hey, modular router, just simply right click on some water that's right here. And we can use like some copycat panels. We can lay those out on the sides of this. I think I'll have to use the create wrench to move this by doing something like that. Let's see, north, we'll do on the south side is where it needs to go. Perfect. And then we'll just pick this up and then also place this directly here. Beautiful. So we can place some water in here, and the modular router has an activation module which will allow us to simulate the right clicking of things inside of its inventory, for example, a bucket. So now we need to think about the logistics of the potion. Like I said, there's 2 generators that are, in my opinion, the hardest ones to set up. This is one of them. So the setup that we're going to want is to pull from the back of the modular router, and this is going to be a puller upgrade, and this is going to be the first one. And essentially, we're looking for glass bottles, empty glass bottles specifically. So we want to make sure that that is whitelisted, and that is our first section. After it pulls it into the modular router from the mycelial generator, we want it to right-click in front and just simply right-click the empty bottle and only the empty bottle. So set that to whitelist. By default, it's automatically set to action right-click, and that's all we have to do. Then we want to send the bottle full back into the generator. So on the back, we'll whitelist, and we'll make sure we only send water bottles. And that should technically be automated. We'll put that in that order. So it's going to go just like this. And I believe we put the empty bottle, which by the way, empty bottle should build up back in here. I put an empty bottle in here that should right click, automatically send it over into here. As soon as it's done, it's an empty bottle, and it just will keep recycling this over and over again. And it doesn't even need to be fast. I mean, this is as fast as it needs to go. If we have any problems with this, though, we can put accelerator upgrades in here. It'll make sure to check this inventory much faster. But as of right now, this is going to work just fine. And so that's the first 4 done and ready to go. So now we move into what is, in my opinion, the most complicated to automate, the disenchantment generator. Yes, as if the name didn't fit inside of the GUI enough. This thing right here is, in my opinion, one of the worst ones to automate, because you need enchanted books, and you need to send the enchanted books in here to be disenchanted, which will then return you back the book. But how do we get enchanted books? And also, how do we do it automatically without have already gotten into, well, Industrial Foregoing and using Industrial Foregoing's enchantment system? Because I would prefer to not need a specific mob farm just to produce, well, essence. But now I think I have an idea. All right, hear me out. So our mob farm is constantly running, and this means that we should be able to use something like a storage interface, and we should be able to attach some cables to this, and we can read this fluid as a liquid source from Just Dire Things with this storage bus. And we'll make sure to partition this so nothing, if this was ever empty, could try to go back in here. So now that we have XP fluid inside of our storage grid, we can send that into things, for example, like the Create Industry enchantment printer. This thing is crazy. This thing allows you to duplicate enchanted books. And we should be able to use the Just Dire Things so long as all of our XP is considered as 1, which I think it is unified. Let's give this a shot. So I've already cleared out a space for this, and we're going to place in our printer, and then down below we'll use a depot, because this is actually how it duplicates them. And then we can use a book like Loyalty, just something low. I mean, anything that is of level 1 is going to be pretty good. If you want to know how much XP this is going to cost, I recommend putting on the goggles. And then inside the goggles, whenever you look at this, it should tell you the enchantment cost of this, or at least it's supposed to tell you the enchantment cost. It does tell me what I'm enchanting, but there we go. Maybe it will after we get some XP fluid in here. So speaking of XP fluid, we'll just use an exporter, and we'll just export right out of our AE system directly into here. And let's see, let's do Just Dire Things, and we'll pull in the XP fluid into here. That's going to start filling that up. Beautiful. And now that we have some XP, we can see that printing cost is only going to be 310 millibuckets. Very, very low in order to print this and duplicate the book. So now for the fun part. The disenchantment generator does have 2 slots. The first slot is a pull slot for the actual enchanted book, and then the orange slot is the output for the book after it has been disenchanted. So what we should be able to do is do the back as a pull to pull the enchantment from the depot into it. And then on the back, we want to push. We want to push the regular book back on here, which means that we should be able to just simply loop a book nonstop from here. Look at that. It is going to keep looping over and over. And that is actually fairly simple. Like this was made very, very easy with just Create. I mean, Create Enchantment Industries here. See, this is why you shouldn't not Create. There's some things in Create that are incredibly powerful for automating things. For example, this right here. I mean, this you can't beat that. Now, continuing down the line, the Ender one is just going to require like an Ender Pearl. So we'll throw an exporter in there and drop an Ender Pearl in that. And that should satisfy that one. Yes, and start working. Now, the explosive one is going to use TNT, and we are going to want to automate the crafting of TNT. So let's actually do that. We'll set up a crafting recipe. Bam, there we go. We can now auto craft TNT. And so back on here, we'll use a crafting card, but there is going to be a problem with this. I'm going to put the crafting card in here, and let's just assume we put TNT in here and it starts automating. That's exactly what it needs. But this actually has some negative effects that starts to take over in this area, and I kind of want to set this up last. That's mainly because it does move you around and does create explosions. It won't blow up your base, but it will hurt you and it will move you out of the way from it, and it is kind of annoying. So something to keep in mind. And also the Frosty generator, I believe, gives you like slowness, but this is the next one we work on. So yeah, Frosty generator. I mean, we are producing unlimited ice, so this I think will be fine. We're using extractors for that, and just regular ice is going to be more than fine, I think. And we'll just have that sent to it. And yes, as you can see, we do get slowness 5 while we are near this. The explosion one is just really bad. Now, moving on to the next one, we have the halitosis generator, and this is going to be Dragon's Breath, which, like I said, is fully automated on our end with an extractor. That goes in there, and that burns up and takes a while. I mean, this really does take a while, so you won't even be using that many of these. Then we have the magma mycelia generator. This just needs lava, just lava. That's it. And we do have lava being produced from our chickens, so perfect. And we put that in, and lava is going to start building up. You can put redstone in here, but it's actually not necessary. You can just burn this straight off of lava alone, and it's going to keep the generator running. Up next, we have the pink mycelial generator, and we're just going to use pink dye. Yes, I kind of want to know what the story is behind having a pink generator. I don't know. I like the idea of this thing, just consuming a dye, and just so long as we can keep up with the dyes, it's going to keep running. It consumes a dye like every 3 seconds. And then finally in this line, we have the Nether Star generator, and this is going to give you withering while you are nearby, just like that, which is a pretty nasty effect. But thankfully, we're not going to be over here all that much. And yeah, it just consumes nether stars. It's about as simple as it gets. And now we are finally on our last 4 generators, and this is the death generator. It is also a very easy one to do, as we just need to send it rotten flesh. And that is going to also give us, I believe, a nasty effect. If you stay nearby, maybe, maybe not. If it is given an effect, I'm not actually receiving it, so thank goodness. However, the rocket mycelial generator, now this one will give you a nasty effect, and it gives you levitation while nearby. I know, how awesome is having levitation? But I think it's only affected if you're within like a 5x5 of the thing. So yeah, you'd have to be on this platform to basically receive those effects. Now, how do we set up rockets? This is actually looking for rockets specifically. We need a few things automated for rockets. We need gunpowder, and we also need to be able to make paper to make rockets. And we actually need to know the recipe and build it ourselves. And so because rockets aren't actually like on full display here, I guess they do show up in JEI. I don't recommend using the ones that show up in JEI to set your recipes. So instead, build it out by hand and just simply set up the recipe just like this. And then make sure you craft this thing. And then what I'm going to do is throw that in here. We're going to put a crafting card inside of this. And then don't drag from JEI. Just make sure that the rockets you have is the rockets that you actually have crafted. And then use that inside of here, because this can become quite a problem if you don't actually use the right rockets. So there we go. Just some regular tier 1 rockets is going to be more than fine on the duration. And I don't know if there's different durations that give you more time. It looks like this gives you more FE. So yeah, I guess they did include that. But this works just fine. We're simply making rockets, putting them in, and we're good to go. Next on the list is the Crimmed Mycelium generator. Yes. Okay, and this is where I said things get a little annoying because the other generator is moving me. But on this one, I mean, the main thing we need to put in here is just some of the crimson. We'll just use crimson fungus, which is one of the many things you can use. And this is one of the things that we actually have fully automated. and we have that automating all the way over here inside of our garden cloche. So yes, we have plenty of these. And finally, we have the metallurgic mycelial generator, which is going to require a couple of different things. We need liquid meat and an ingot. Now, inside of an exporter, you can export two different things, but I do like to set this to scheduling. And we want to make sure that liquid meat is automated, which I do have it in my mob farm. This is from the mob slaughter factory. And then we need just regular iron ingot. I'm just going to use iron. You can use any ingot, I believe. Iron is the cheapest thing for us to use, and we'll just have those things constantly running. It may just work off of regular meat alone, but I'm going to throw both of them in just for the sake of it. Now, before I set out the big generator that's going to be generating all the power, we do want to make sure that these are draining of power, because they do need to be in a progression state, and they do stop producing and stop working whenever the power buffer is filled up. So I'm going to use some plugs, and since we have an unlimited power storage, instead of voiding the power, I'm just going to send whatever extra these make. So I do want to get my first one set up, and this is going to be under the send channel, and we'll set this to bypass. Doesn't really matter in this case. And I'll shift right click with the flux configurator, and then I'm going to right click. Now, there's a problem, as you can see, whenever I do right click, and the fact that it doesn't actually change anything. However, it is actually working, I do believe. Or maybe it isn't working. Yeah, we do have to pick it back up and then place it back down in order for it to receive its effects. So kind of a nice thing about using the gates from the Power mod is that you don't have to configure anything. And it is kind of weird that the configurator from Flux Networks has been kind of broken since it has updated, which is kind of interesting. But yes, I'm going to go through, place them all in, still use this because I still think it is easier. I'm going to set this like that, and then just right click on all of them, and then I'll go back through and break them all and place them again. And with that, the Mycelial Reactor hopefully will be up and running and produce the power that we want. So I have it placed down right here, and we throw it together, and is it actually functioning? No, but is everything actually working? That is a no. I forgot to pick these up. You know what? Dramatic moment. Voila! And now this is glowing, and it now should be producing. Okay, there's always some trial and error. Just hear me out. And you know what? I feel like I've done this every series I have built this. I always tell myself I'm not setting up the TNT one. And then I realize, oh yeah, I forgot to set up the TNT one because this is the most annoying one out of the whole bunch. As soon as we do this, everything should be working just fine. Let's get out of here. Oh my goodness, it just makes so much noise. And there we go. Oh, and it is rendering now. Oh, I think it hasn't rendered in the last couple of packs I played. That's so sick that it even renders. Beautiful. And this is now producing all of that power. We are going to have to disable TNT explosion sounds. And there we go. With all of that done, this is what we get. And this thing is absolutely beautiful. And we can place this right on top, set it to the send, and then set the bypass. And are we producing 25 million? That definitely doesn't look like 25 million. Why does that not? Are we limiting our input on our reactor? I bet I forgot to do this. Also, I did change this all to black. We need to go over here to our red one. Did I forget to? I forgot to click the bypass. And there we go. 25 million now going into this thing. Oh, that is beautiful to see. And thus our generator is now passively producing 25 million RF per tick by supplying all of these generators with these resources and keeping them constantly running. So now that I've got the power, I should be able to, get into just about anything I want. Like Mekanism, anything. 25 million RF per tick is a lot of power. And it is quite the jump to basically jump from what we were producing, which was like 120,000 RF per tick, to quite literally jumping to 25 million. But I will say, honestly, the 120,000 was more than enough to get me through all the way to the point where I currently am. And I did that for a reason. I wanted to try and prove a point. You don't really need a whole lot of power especially if you have a power reserve. But now this is also why I avoided Mekanism for the most part up to this point, because Mekanism is very power hungry. And I didn't dive too deep into power because I know that power can make quite a bit of power as well. Even with it being nerfed in here, it still generates quite a bit of power and is very easy to set up. And I probably would have avoided actually setting up the mycelial generator, which is one of my favorite ways of generating power because of all the things that need to be automated. And in a pack like this, it's fantastic. But yet again, this is the replacement to the rainbow generator that did exist in Stoneblock 2. So definitely set this up if you're looking for that nostalgic hit. And so I think today this is a good stopping point, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Hopefully you learned something, whether it was about how to automate several of these different generators or learning about the Mycelial Reactor in general. And with that, guys, give this video a huge thumbs up if you haven't already, and click that subscribe button. And without further ado, it's time for me to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Legacy. Thank you so much for your amazing support in choosing to support me over in the Discord, by becoming a Discord premium member and just supporting my content in one of the best ways possible. You absolute boss. And thank you so much for going above and beyond. And to all of you guys, I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you for clicking on this video, watching it, commenting down below, and giving this video a thumbs up. And I'll see you in the next one. And as always, thanks for watching.